You may not know Day, but you've probably heard his story.
Renting in Seattle is not easy.
He was in a Beacon Hill apartment about a year ago when he says he got a notice his rent would be going up, roughly 14% the next month.
My property management company was trying to slide in some hidden fees into my rent.
Day has asked us not to name his former rental agency. He had a long legal battle with his landlords over a safety deposit and alleged damages for more than $9,000.
By the time you get to that place, I mean, you're cleaning out your bank account.
He prevailed in court and got his deposit money back with help from the tenants union. But he's worried about others with lower incomes who might not know where to turn for help.
There's not enough regulation on rent. There's not enough regulation on development where we are ensured a place to stay here in Seattle, especially communities of color.
State Representative Nicole Macri says she has an answer: rent control.
When more and more middle-class workers are struggling to meet rent, it's time for us, I think, to change the conversation at the state level and return local control.
It's a controversial idea. Washington passed a ban on allowing cities to enact rent control measures in 1981. And a bill like this hasn't even been considered since 1999. But Macri says there's an urgent need for a solution now.
We have an extreme housing affordability crisis.
Analysts say rents are up 65% in Seattle since 2010. And statewide, Zillow reports Washington rental prices are rising at the second fastest rate in the nation.
There are a lot of different approaches to rent regulation.
Macri is well aware the impact of rent control laws has been mixed nationwide. A recent Bay Area study showed rent control prevented the displacement of some residents, but pushed up rents elsewhere as landlords look to recoup losses. Macri says these past concerns could help in crafting better rent control policy for Seattle and other cities. They just need the state to give them the go-ahead.
What we need to do, I think, is allow communities to bring together folks to make sure that they are striking the right balance for their community.
Morris Groberman says added rent regulation is a bad idea.
If you do that, you got a problem.
Groberman manages about 60 buildings in Seattle, similar to the Regis here on Capitol Hill. Older, but relatively affordable, with a studio renting out for $12.50 a month.
All these buildings need upkeep and replacing.
He says he's constantly repairing older power, water, and gas lines, with workers whose wages are rising, right along with his property taxes.
We're doing our best we can to watch the costs, but labor's going up, taxes are going up, insurance, utilities, everything's going up that we have no control of.
Instead of the added expense of rent control, Groberman would much rather increase the city's current multifamily tax exemptions to encourage landlords to lower rental prices.
Let's expand those if you want, but adding more taxes to my buildings, I'm just going to have to pay for it, and that's not going to help lower rent.
The city of Seattle has asked the legislature to relax the ban on rent control for the past 3 years. So, will 2018 mark a breakthrough?
My thoughts about rent control are that it is really terrible, failed policy.
Senator Jamie Peterson may share the 43rd district with Nicole Macri, but he doesn't share her enthusiasm for rent control.
It tends to depress the creation of new housing stock.
That said, Peterson would not oppose the idea of lifting the state ban and giving local governments more control over rent regulation. He just doesn't think capping rents would help.
It ought to be up to the local voters and the local legislative authorities, but I, as a citizen of Seattle, would hope that our city council would be very smart about how they exercise that authority if they had it.
I think we get the conversation started.
Macri is well aware that even with a new Democrat majority in the Senate and Democrats running the House and governor's office, her bill faces an uncertain future in a short session that's also in an election year. But as rents keep rising, she and the Seattle City Council will keep working to find some answers to some challenging questions.
How do we protect those families who've been living there for generations and are being priced out?
My costs go up, I have to pass them on. I just have to, otherwise I go out of business.